Hi everyone, welcome back to For Real. Today is Wednesday, that means it's News Moto Day. So Jeremy is going to ride around and show you some scenery on the way home from the salt flats. And I'm going to talk to you about the news that has occurred in Cambodia in the past week. So we do this every Wednesday if you want to catch up and listen to the news in a way where you get to watch some nice scenery at the same time. It's great to have you joining us here today, and we've got a lot of stories to get through, so we best get started. Cambodia has had a total of 36,240 cases of COVID so far, and 35,038 of those are community transmission cases, and I think the bulk of those are attributed still to the February 20 incident. Unfortunately, some of the new cases that are being discovered are the Delta variant or the Indian variant of COVID. The article goes on to say that 7 of the 9 Southeast Asian countries do have the Delta variant in their countries at the moment. So it lists them as Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam and Cambodia. So the 2 that are missing are Laos and Myanmar, and I guess you can take what you want from that omission, or the omission of those 2 countries. Next up is a report of a COVID-19 patient and friends staying at Ramo Resort in Kampot and not Bambo Resort as was reported earlier. It seems like this was a case of mistaken identity, so good news for one group of people who actually didn't have contact with the people who had COVID, and bad news for other people that stayed at the hotel that was identified as the actual place where they stayed, because now they have been in contact with a case when they thought they hadn't. Next article is one from Siem Reap. It says, couple with direct contact with COVID-19 patients in Siem Reap flee before being tested. This is just one of many reports of people fleeing at different times in the COVID process. So fleeing before they're tested, fleeing after they're tested, fleeing from quarantine, fleeing before they get the results back. It's just, people just can't stay in one place, it seems. Anyway, it's to be hoped they find these absconders very soon before they can potentially infect other people. Still in Siem Reap, 11 policemen are among 43 new virus cases. It goes on to list their full name, their age, and the village that they live in, so there can be no doubt about who these people are. And those 11 bring the complete total for Siem Reap up to 159 cases. Puok Market in Siem Reap has been closed down over fear of COVID-19 spread. It's not in Siem Reap town, I don't think it's out in a different part of the province. We had a really big storm yesterday afternoon, and as the storm was coming in, I was on Twitter and I saw that somebody had posted a picture of a plane, and the caption was that it was trying to land, and it was the plane that was actually carrying the Sinovac vaccines. And there were 1 million of them on board, and the plane couldn't land because of the storm. So eventually the storm abated and the plane was allowed to land, and the vaccines are safely in the care of the health authorities. Following on from that, there's an article that says, full steam ahead, government on track to vaccinate about 10 million by the year's end. If they keep going at the rate that they're currently vaccinating, they'll have no trouble at all reaching that goal. So the vaccines that are in Cambodia at the moment are coming from a range of different places. So some of them are coming direct from China as aid, some of them have been purchased from China, and some are coming in through the COVAX initiative. Here's a bit of a strange story. It says, KEP bans adverts not related to C-19 fight. In an unprecedented move, KEP's provincial governor has ordered that business owners must remove all banners or billboards with content promoting any products and to replace them with educational content related to measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Look out, all you orange Gansberg signs. So it looks like the shop owners and people who own the signs will have to take the middle bit out with the actual advertising, and then the administration will go around and use the pillars and frames that are already there to place COVID-19 educational content inside instead. The governor said that young people can follow the news through social media such as Facebook, but the elderly, some of them, do not follow the news updates through social media. This is why we demand to disseminate information through banners or billboards, he said. Might be worth going to KEP for a ride to get some photos of that happening. Would be pretty amazing, I think. Going back to Phnom Penh to the 6th of June, the title of this article says, Motorist attacked by swordsman in Phnom Penh. A motorist in Phnom Penh had a lucky escape when he was attacked by assailants wielding swords as he drove in Sen Sok last night. According to the victim, he was driving home after a pleasant evening with friends when suddenly a group of 4 swordsmen, mounted not on horses but on motorcycles, drove by his car and proceeded to assail it with their weapons. The swordsmen caused considerable damage to the victim's car, although luckily the driver was not hurt. Police arrived at the scene and fired some warning shots, detained 3 of the 4 swordsmen, and I think they've got the 4th one now as well. The question on your mind is, what kind of car was this guy driving? I know that's what you want to know. What kind of car is not capable of outrunning 4 swordsmen on motorcycles, you might ask? Yes, you're right. The driver was driving a big white Prius. Next up, a group of gangsters attacked 2 men in an attempt to rob them. Before the incident, a young man rode a motorbike with another man and a woman. They travelled from east to west. When they arrived at the entrance of Karmet, a group of 5 suspects with 4 motorcycles approached them. Then one of the suspects, who was riding a big motorbike, stops in front of the victim's motorbike and pulled out his belt, hitting the 2 young men. Then he fired a gunshot. At that time, the victims ran away from their bike and ran into the hospital for help, according to a witness. The suspects fled before the police arrived, but the victims did file a complaint with the police. In a dispute that's been going on for a little while now, one person was shot as candle protests turned violent. The government's got some plans to use some land that people have been living and growing vegetables on. They want to use it for military and also as a garbage disposal site. So the local people are protesting the retaking of that land. The people have been erecting barricades across the road and also setting fires to stuff strung across the road so that traffic can't go down. And shots were fired, I think. I think somebody was hurt. I really hope they can find a peaceful solution to the problem. The US has sent 770 deportees back to Cambodia. These are Cambodian people who've been living in the US and they've committed crimes, and there was an agreement that if that happened, they'd be sent back. So between 1975 and 2000, the US accepted 145,000 Cambodian refugees as part of an influx of Cambodians displaced by the genocide. Then the US began deporting many of them convicted of crimes under a deal signed in 2002 between both governments. United Nations human rights experts are expressing concern about the Cambodian government's sub-decree and establishment of the National Internet Gateway, and they say that it could be in contravention of the rights to privacy and freedom of expression. The UN says that this sub-decree permits authorities to monitor and conduct surveillance of internet activity, intercept and censor digital communications, and collect, retain and share personal data of users. The government has countered with its own statement, saying that it respects the individual's right to privacy and freedom of expression and protects personal data, all of which is enshrined in laws, the Constitution, ratified international human rights treaties, the Civil Code, the Criminal Code, and the law on telecommunications. In Takeo province, 50 live pigs were slaughtered because they were found to have African swine fever. At the moment, Cambodia only accepts live imported pigs from Thailand, not from Vietnam, because Vietnam has also had cases of African swine fever. I think the concern is for the health of the cattle and the livestock, more so than concerns that it might spread to humans. You'll be pleased to know that the Phnom Penh Sinucville Expressway is now 51% complete. So it's tipped the scales and it's now in its second half, ready to be completed by the end of 2023, it says. It's being built by China's Belt and Road Initiative, and it is there to help boost freight and trade coming from the deep sea port in Sinucville. It's 24.5 metres wide with 2 lanes on either side. Mine clearance experts have said that Cambodia has reached the halfway mark of clearing mines and explosive remnants of war, and the goal of clearing the entire country by 2025 is within reach. This is great for local people because it means that they'll be able to farm on all of that additional land once it's been cleared. Following on from that, I know some of you have seen the story about hero rat Magawa and the fact that he is now retiring. Magawa is an African pouched rat, actually a giant African pouched rat, I think. These things are huge. We've actually seen them in the Opopo Visitor Centre, and they sniff out unexploded ordnance. Magawa was born in November 2014 in Tanzania, and he grew up at Opopo's Training and Research Centre, where he learned how to detect the smell of explosives using his nose. After completing his 9 months of training, he moved to Siem Reap, with his little suitcase in 2016, where he met his new handler and began his landmine sniffing career. During his tenure, he could sniff out 38 different types of unexploded ordnance. He could do a piece of land the size of a tennis court in about half an hour. He might be retiring, but he's certainly not going to lie around doing nothing. He is going to take on a new role of training rat handlers on teaching their rodents to sniff for landmines, as people do not understand the different types of rats. He will understand the 20 new rodents, their mind, character, behaviour, and their instincts. It is easier for him to guide the handlers. Yes, he's going to keep those young whippersnappers in line, make sure they follow all of the procedures correctly, don't cut any corners, and do their sniffing to the best of their ability. It's currently the 9th of June, but by mid-June, the first 7-Eleven store in Cambodia is due to open in Phnom Penh. The branch of 7-Eleven is going to be at a petrol station, and yeah, I guess they'll be busy stocking it by now if it's due to open in the next kind of 5 or 6 days. I do love 7-Eleven, but you'd have to worry about if they do become as common here as they are in Thailand, what that would do to all of the small shops that are run by, just local people. And some good news for the environment coming out of Siem Reap. Siem Reap implements plastic waste reduction project. I think they've got a very large battle ahead of them, but any step towards reducing the amount of plastic that's used in Cambodia is a great thing and wonderful to see. There have been a lot of big storms in Cambodia recently because of the monsoon. Kampong Chenang had a really bad storm hit it, and 10 houses were completely destroyed and 90 were damaged, so massive storms. There's actually been a few warnings out recently about possible thunder, lightning gusts, strong winds and high waves that might be happening this week as a result of the storms and monsoon around at the moment. There's a typhoon around at the moment. It's called Typhoon Koguma, and it's due to hit Cambodia on the 12th of June from what this article says. It's travelling at the moment from Hainan Island in China to South China Sea, and it's expected to hit the coastal provinces hard, so they need to brace for this typhoon. You feel for all of the people that go out to sea fishing. It wouldn't be very pleasant at all at this time of year. We're ending today's news wrap-up with a story from the 7th of June, and it says a Chinese man had a lucky escape when he narrowly avoided driving his luxury car into the Tonle Sap early this morning. The man, who is believed to have been under the influence of alcohol, lost control of his vehicle near a bridge and careered off into the riverbank under the bridge. Luckily for him, disaster was averted when his drunken journey was halted by the presence of a large mound of earth, which halted his progress before he could test the amphibious capabilities of his Toyota Prius car. After the incident, local authorities arrived to check for damage to state property, as well as removing the vehicle with a crane. It is not known whether the driver will face charges for drunk driving. That's a wrap of the news as of Wednesday, the 9th of June. I hope you've enjoyed listening to some of the stories, and I hope you also enjoyed Jeremy's footage of riding around. There was lots of interesting stuff in the video today for you to see, different things going on the road, different kinds of vehicles carrying different kinds of stuff, and that's what Cambodian life is all about, is just enjoying all of those sights that you don't see at other places in the West. It's been wonderful to have you joining us. We hope you'll tune in on the weekend when we put out our next video. We're not sure what that's going to be at this stage, but we hope to see you there. I did go out the other evening to make another video, but when I got to the temple that I was hoping to record at, I was encircled by a rather large number of dogs and had to promptly leave. So it was a bit of a fail. Have to come up with a plan B for the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. It would be really great if you could drop a comment. We're always interested to hear what you think about the news in Cambodia, and also what you think about what you see in the rides that Jeremy does to accompany the news stories. There's a lot of great stuff to see in today's video, so hopefully you enjoyed that. Have a look in the description for all of the links to different channels that we follow and people that are making content in Cambodia, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.